Healers have the bloodiest hands. Why? Let's get into it. This saying really stuck with me because I deeply understand what it means. I've seen parts of it in myself, and I'm still going through some of that process. And there's something really interesting about it. Why would the people who know how to heal be the ones who've been hurt the most? Maybe a healer isn't someone who simply suffered. Because almost everyone suffers, right? And suffering by itself doesn't make you compassionate. It doesn't automatically make you wiser, kinder, or better at understanding people. You can go through something terrible and come out of it thinking, I didn't deserve what happened to me, so why should I care what happens to anyone else? And honestly, I can understand where that comes from. You didn't deserve the pain, but what happens next is where things start to change. Because you can use your pain as an explanation for your behavior, or you can decide that it won't become an excuse for it. You can look at what happened to you and think, this ends with me. And maybe that's also why some people become the kind of person who just knows what to say when you're hurting. Tell them something you have never been able to explain properly, and somehow they just get it. And you wonder, how did you know that? Maybe it's because they've spent a long time in the darkness themselves. They've walked through it enough times that they know where the ground drops, where the walls are, where the path bends. So when you're lost in it, they don't necessarily pull you out. They just come back with a lantern. They show you where the path is, and they hold your hand while you find your way. But the light they give you can't walk the path for you. Someone can guide you, someone can show you what helped them, someone can sit beside you while you're falling apart, but whether you actually walk that path is still yours. And that got me thinking about the whole idea of the wounded healer. If you've never heard the term before, it's basically the idea that sometimes the people who help others through their pain have experienced their own pain too. They've been through something themselves, and that experience can shape the way they understand someone else's suffering. And that brings up a bigger question. Does suffering actually makes us more empathetic? Research suggests it can, but it's not that simple. Some research has found links between experiencing adversity and greater empathy, pro-social behavior, while other research shows that the relationship depends on the person and their circumstances. Some people go through pain and become incredibly sensitive to other people's suffering because they know exactly what it feels like. They think, I know this pain, I don't want anyone else to feel it. But other people come out of suffering guarded, bitter, resentful. They might think, I went through it, I survived, so you can too. Same human experience, but completely different response. So maybe the important part isn't whether you have been wounded. Maybe it's what you do with the wound. And also, I had this another interesting thought. When we see someone suffering, sometimes our first instinct is to make it stop. But why? Is it because we genuinely want to help them, or because watching someone suffer makes us uncomfortable? And there's actually a distinction psychologists have made between empathic concern and personal distress. They're not quite the same thing. Empathic concern is more like, I can see that you're hurting, I want to understand, and I'm here. Your attention is still on the person who's hurting. But personal distress is different. It can be more like, I can't handle seeing you like this, I need this feeling to stop. Now the focus has shifted back onto you. And from the outside, both people might look caring, but internally something very different might be happening. One person is staying present with someone else's pain, the other is trying to get away from their own discomfort. And that's an important distinction, because being sensitive to suffering isn't automatically the same thing as knowing how to help someone through it. You can recognize someone's pain instantly and still panic. You can try to fix them because you can't stand watching them hurt. You can give advice because you desperately want the situation to feel better. And sometimes helping isn't fixing. Sometimes it's just being able to stay so The next time someone comes to you hurting, maybe ask yourself, am I trying to help them feel better, or am I trying to make myself feel better? And maybe that's also why someone can seem incredibly strong and still get triggered by something surprisingly small. A sentence, a smell, someone's tone, a situation that shouldn't logically affect them that much, and suddenly something inside them reacts. I don't think being triggered automatically means you're unhealed. We're all going to have things that still hurt. What matters is what happens after the reaction. Do you notice it? Do you sit with it? Do you understand where you came from? Can you choose what you do with it instead of immediately passing that pain on to someone else? Because a healer isn't someone who never gets hurt again. They're someone who has gotten better at recognizing what the hurt is doing to them. They can still feel it. They just don't let it take the steering wheel. And when you really think about it, none of us are completely figured out. There might be parts of us we haven't understood yet. Parts that only become visible when something triggers them, and that's okay. Healing doesn't mean becoming this perfectly calm person who's never affected by anything. It might just mean becoming more aware of yourself, knowing this hurt me, this brought something back, I'm angry, I'm scared. And instead of immediately turning that feeling into an action, you pause. You sit with it. You decide what happens next. So when I come back to that phrase, healers have the bloodiest hands, I don't see it as a meaning that the people who suffer the most automatically becomes the best healers. I think it's more kind of complicated than that, because pain can harden you. Pain can make you guarded. Pain can make you numb, but it can also make you understand something you couldn't have understood before. And maybe the difference isn't how much pain someone went through. Maybe it's whether they were willing to face it, to sit with the darkness instead of letting it become their entire identity, to look at what happened to them and say, this happened to me, but it doesn't get to decide what I do to you. Because maybe that's what the lantern means. You know what it's like to be lost in the dark? You've felt your way through it. You've learned enough about that darkness to recognize it when someone else is standing in it. And instead of leaving them there, you came back with the light. Not because you're no longer wounded, but because you know the way. And maybe that's what makes a healer. Okay, that's all I had for today, and it kind of got deeper than I expected. So now I'm gonna go rest. It's been a long day, and see you in the next video.